In this video, we're going to be looking at constant motion as we plot it on a velocity versus time graph. So on these velocity versus time graphs, each type of motion has a characteristic shape on the graph. So the different shapes could be representing zero speed or a constant speed, and that constant speed could be positive or negative. So on these graphs, you'll set them up just like this, where you'll have on the x-axis time, because remember on your x-axis, that's where your independent variable goes. And your independent variable is time, because technically you are manipulating or changing the amount of time that you allow to pass. And on your y-axis, you have velocity. So velocity is on your y-axis because it's the dependent variable. And remember, with a dependent variable, that's something that you're measuring. You can measure the speed or the velocity that an object has. All right, so on our first scenario, so horizontal lines. When we're talking about constant motion on these velocity versus time graphs, you're going to be seeing a series of some sort of horizontal lines. It could be here on the x-axis, down below. But because we're talking about constant velocity, that means that the velocity does not change. So that's essentially like cruise control for the object. So imagine a car driving down the road and you hit cruise control. You stay at 50 miles per hour the entire time. 50 miles per hour the entire time is a constant velocity. So for this first scenario, we have a constant speed in the positive position. So remember, positive position of the graph here, negative is down here. So this line is in the positive position, meaning it has some sort of positive velocity. So maybe the velocity of the object is moving north or to the right. So this is some sort of constant speed. So technically speaking, on our graph, the object's velocity would be a positive 3 meters per second, or you could say 3 meters per second to the right. So you see that the 3 meters per second is the constant speed of the graph. The velocity does not change the entire time that you map the velocity of the object. All right, for our next one, as you can see, the horizontal line is now down below, so it's in the negative portion of our graph. So that means that it's a constant velocity still, but now the object's either moving south or left. So if we look at our y-axis and we go to actually measure it, we can see that the object's velocity is negative 4 meters per second, because if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, that is where our line is. So the object is moving at 4 meters per second the entire journey, and that negative sign just tells you that it's moving south or left. All right, and then our last type of constant motion. So an object could just be resting. It could be just stationary. So that's still a constant motion because it's a constant no motion. So the velocity here is 0. So because it's on the x-axis, the velocity is at 0. So the object is not moving. And it's not moving the entire journey that you are mapping out the object's motion. All right, so in summary, for these velocity versus time graphs, you'll see a series of horizontal lines to represent the constant velocity that we're going to be talking about. So the first one, we had a horizontal line at 0. So that means that the object is stationary. And as you can see, it would appear there on the graph. Our next horizontal line, if we have one anywhere above the 0, somewhere in the positive portion of the graph, that means that the object is moving at a constant positive velocity. So this could be a positive 4 meters per second. So the object's moving 4 meters every second in the positive direction, right or north. And then also we have a horizontal line below 0. So this would be in the negative portion of our graph, meaning that it has a constant negative velocity. So that means that this object could be moving at a negative 4 meters per second. So the object's moving 4 meters every second in the left direction or the south direction. All right, that concludes our velocity time graphs for constant motion. So leave a comment if you have any questions.